Hi guys and welcome back to SwitchUp. I'm Mark Walker and, well, if you enjoy the content then do consider subscribing. And a big warning as well that this is a game most definitely not suited for children, as it features a ton of expletives, and if you're the sensitive sort you might not want to watch. Cheers to the developer for the review copy. Night School Studios were the same developers who created the excellent Oxenfree, which made its way over to Switch a while back now. Afterparty, released in 2019, might just be one of the best and well-crafted adventure titles I've played since maybe early LucasArts games, and while the core gameplay differs from a point-and-click, where Afterparty really surpasses so much of the competition in recent history is in its writing and delivery. What's it all about? Well, let's find out. As much as I'm going to try, it's impossible to review a game like this without some spoilers. After their untimely demise, Milo and Lola find themselves on a quest of redemption and, alcohol, as they look to do the impossible, out-party Satan himself. To do this, they'll have to venture through the underworld, travelling, of course, via a taxi that traverses the River Styx. Why wouldn't it? Along the way, you'll meet some of the most hilariously well voice acted and written characters I've had the pleasure and, in all honesty, cringe to meet. Standouts include the 3 racist monks who constantly overstep the line with Lola, to which she has a suitable response.
You two, you there, the Ebony Woman and the Lemon Man.
If I get enough racist catcalling at my therapist's office, thank you.
And then there's the outstanding rap offering that covers pretty much every social faux pas in recent history. Dialogue is razor sharp, and for those easily offended, this is most certainly from the Ricky Gervais school of comedy writing, i.e. everything will be joked about. So expect sardonic references to racism, social status, social media and politics. I mentioned cringe earlier because in a refreshing change to the norm, there were times I was literally saying, are they allowed to say that? Well, the answer is yeah, they are. But as a society, we are so very careful now, understandably, with what we say or do in the digital world, that we very often think you can't actually joke about anything. Now, you don't find out exactly how your 2 main protagonists met their demise right from the get-go, and it's in fact further in the game, which is a nice touch. It keeps you wanting to push on, and when you do find out, I love the way the characters react. Heck, their reactions to everything in the story are brilliant, from freaking out to the banter between the 2 of them. They feel like 2 real people.
Get a grip, Lola. You were the Rock. Don't make me the Rock.
Okay, I can't be the Rock. I am not fine. How was I fine?
I reckon Glen and I would make good game characters. I think I would be the daring and no, anyway. Just as with Oxenfree, much of the game is about walking and talking. There are a few notable gameplay tweaks though, to at least give some variety. Most notable then is the drinking mechanic, which allows the player to tackle situations with a personalised touch, shall we say, with each of the drinks allowing a dialogue choice reflective of the brew you chose.
This sounds like an accidental admission, like when that guy told me he didn't care if people peed in the community shower.
Hey.
One might make you flirtatious, while another cocky, and a third still ultra aggressive. This gave the interactions the aforementioned personalization that is often absent from pre-scripted adventure titles. Another standout in this regard is the flow of conversation. Just as with Oxenfree, characters will interrupt or cut each other off mid-sentence and then pick up where they left off in that conversation. I was actually reading a really interesting article from Gamasutra where they spoke to the developer, and this, it turns out, is a very tricky thing to do. Having dialogue flow naturally like it isn't easily done. The drinking mechanic has a puzzle element to it as well. For example, starting a fight might be easier with a drink that makes you angry, but equally perhaps so with one that makes you cocky. You'll be rewarded for whichever of these you go with, and different avenues will open up in the dialogue, as well as potential different options, such as the beer pong game, for example, or an arm wrestling match. As you travel through hell, you'll have to go to several different bars and events, where you'll be partaking in much merriment. Even seemingly smaller choices, like the drink being finite, with the remaining quantity shown in the corner, add a minor strategy to the game. Now, choices are usually more to do with who you want to be as a character, rather than dramatically affecting the outcome of the storyline as it progresses. They are self-indulgences for the player that more often than not left me laughing out loud as I played. If Oxenfree was the studio stretching their writing legs, then Afterparty is them running with their ideas with great success.
Going outside, getting some fresh air.
Fresh air? You mean outside? That shit's half chlorine, half skunk, half dying turtle vomit.
The last element of the game is the timing. Now, comedic timing is so tough to get right with this kind of flow. Characters will need to react to their environment, but will also allow for the player to move through, usually unhindered. There were a couple of times my movements clearly cut the dialogue off, which is unavoidable, as I had hit another trigger of sorts, but it really felt too unnatural, and usually the next thing that was said was a continuation of the last. And that comes down to clever writing, and it felt like there was a design decision made to allow the player to do that, as it gives the sense of off-rail storytelling while still following a path. You gain access to a mobile device that you could use to book a taxi to other parts of, hell. And there are moments of choice about where to go next, which I always appreciate. Overall then, Afterparty is a worthy and excellently crafted story that can be both unnerving and hilarious at the same time. Control is solid, and despite a few moments where a dedicated run button rather than a context-dependent one would have been nice, it works. Story and gameplay score 18 out of 20, while the controls score 17 out of 20. Visually, the game's excellent. The 3D side perspective allows for several layers of depth, with foreground objects moving quickly in front of the camera and other partygoers and revelers doing, well, the same. However, I must say I did notice quite a lot of aliasing around the edges of objects, with them looking quite jaggy at times. In the end, I must admit I just stuck on the M Classic and it removed the vast majority of those, but that's not going to be an option for most people. Still, they've gone for clarity over a smooth edge, and it still looks decent enough in motion. Animation and overall design is solid, with the denizens of Hades having a real Broken Age aesthetic at times. In fact, Broken Age is probably the closest, perhaps not in tone, but definitely style to this one. Then there's the music. We don't need to mince words here, it is bloody fantastic. Seriously, from the grimy title screen music to the various different pieces of original music, and then two spontaneous ones as well. It's top drawer, matched by the vocal performances from Janina Gavankar of Star Wars Battlefront 2 fame, and Koi Dao in the perhaps more notable Detective Pikachu, who play Lola and Milo respectively. The back and forth between them is outstandingly natural and well delivered. The shift in visual and audio as you knock back the beverages also works well. Visuals clip along nicely. I believe it's a 30 FPS title, maybe full res, which is fine for slower paced adventuring. Load times are a touch on the longer side though, but the experience in Doctor handheld is still strong. Overall for me, visual score 16 out of 20, while audio is brilliant and scores 20 out of 20. Launching with a 20% discount, which takes the price to just over £14 or your regional equivalent, which you can see on screen, I would say the 6 to 8 hour runtime for this style of game is well worth it. This is a tightly crafted narrative adventure. Unlike an RPG, there's very little downtime, and the voice acting and delivery are spot on. Now, if you enjoyed Oxenfree's mixture of dark and often eerie with the light-hearted coming-of-age style exposition, you'll instantly take a liking and feel an affinity with our unwilling heroes. The game is well worth the asking price, and is actually cheaper right now than it is on the PS4. While it doesn't launch physically, Oxenfree did see a limited run, which I wouldn't be surprised if we see here later on down the line. Overall for me, value scores 18 out of 20. As I'm sure you can tell, I have absolutely loved Afterparty on Switch, so much so that I actually sacked off another review to do it. Ouch. Hopefully I can pick that one up as we go. What a blast. If you're a fan of humour that's close to the bone and can take the constant expletive explosions, you'll really enjoy this one. It scores a SwitchUp score of 89%. Once again, a big thanks to the developer for the review copy. If you enjoyed the content, then stick around. Hit that bell and whatever else they've added in these days that you have to hit, do the hitting. For all things Switch, oh hang on, a big thanks to our patrons who support the channel each and every month. For all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya!